You don't have my coffee? It's 12:05. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sip and Savor hour of the Simeon Henderson Show. And we are now live. So we are now live with the Sip and Savor hour of the Simeon Henderson Show. I hope you guys are tuned in and ready for a great show today. It is about to go down. We have today I'm going to be talking to Miss Stephanie, and we're going to be talking about women in film, producing, all of the things. We're going to get into it all. Hope you guys are ready for a great show, and we're about to get it kicked off. So without further ado, we're about to get it. So I hope you guys are ready. We had a couple of technical issues this morning, but we're going to have it all figured out and together. So we're about to get into the Simeon Henderson Show. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that little intro. I am here with the one and only. Now, Stephanie,
Yes.
look, I used to always butcher your last name. It's Rabiola. Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh?
It means in Italian, it means angry little girl.
It's Rabiola, right?
Rabiola, yeah.
Right. It's so funny because I like to crack jokes. So I always want to be like ravioli, Stephanie Ravioli, Rabiola.
Rabiola.
And this is how you know I'm spelling it right. Because when you put it in, when you type it in, it says it's wrong.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot wrong with me. It's fine.
They're like, wait a minute, you're spelling this wrong. I'm like, no, I'm spelling it right. So do you have anything that you're sipping on? Because it is the Sip and Savor hour.
Oh, I do.
So, okay, there you go. So I have mine. So I'm gonna get right into it. Let me take my first sip. My son always makes my my coffee for me. It's either coffee or tea. Today it's coffee because I'm fasting during the day.
Oh, yeah.
So on certain days I can't eat until 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. So I can drink like 2 cups of coffee periodically during the day and a bunch of water. So it keeps me okay. And I keep myself busy so I won't be.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I could survive without a lot of things. I won't give up coffee. Just about anything else.
But I do the coffee. I do it just black coffee.
Oh, yeah. It's the only way to go. You don't want any other poison in there.
There it is. So here we go. You were born and raised in Chicago, right?
I was, yeah.
And you started working on narrative films. All right. So when we talk about narrative films and documentaries and travel shows and things like that. So I want to talk about that first because you've done a plethora of work between film and documentaries, commercials, and the political scene as well. So we'll get to that part last because I'm sure there's going to be a really interesting conversation. So when you started, what was the first film you ever worked on?
Well, when I was a child, when I was a teenager, my first film experience ever was The Fugitive. It was filmed. It was filmed here. I was an extra, but they pulled me out of a line of extras and said, "We're going to try this scene. We're going to try this other excerpt." And so basically, I ended up on the cutting room floor, except for my photographs. But it was the most amazing experience with Harrison Ford. They wrote this other part of the script I was supposed to be the one-armed man killer's daughter. So we did all this scene with, we did all the stuff, but the experience was amazing. It was they filmed at this high school in Capri Green, and it was pretty much shut down except for the set. And the hallway's dark, everything's dark except for this one spot that they lit. And I'm right outside the door when there's the big scene where he's like, "I didn't kill my wife." And, I kind of could see through this little door, this little crack I could see. And there was woman boom operator, and she just looked like this powerful force. So I said, you know what, that's where I want to be. I don't, I want to be somewhere in that mix. I just thought it was magical. So that was my
You
first experience.
you knew you wanted to take charge.
Yeah,
It and
probably.
I think it's so funny. Tell everyone what that means. You said your scene was on a cutting room floor. For all of my non-film buffs and people that don't understand that, tell people what that means. If someone says that their scene was on the cutting room floor.
It means that we were cut out. So we filmed all this. We filmed a couple of scenes, but in the final edit, it means it gets cut out and excerpted from the film. So
Right.
unfortunately, I've had the task of telling people throughout my career like that their scene got cut, and it's it's a little bit of a heartbreaking kind of a thing.
Right. It's like, yeah, you did a great job, but you're not gonna use that in the. So now you decided that you went from being an extra and you were on set, but you did something I think a lot of people should do, and that's what I did when I started off as an extra. I would always pay attention because I always wanted to learn and know what was going on and how the set was working and what made everything tick and click. And so you were there and you decided, hey, I want to do that, or I want to do something different. I want to be a part of making the magic and making the productions happen. So, what was your first film or project as a producer? So, I don't know if you started off as a
Mhm.
producer or a PA, or how did you start working behind the scenes?
Well, I did do a lot of. I've done so much free work in this city that my blood, sweat, and tears are all over different quarters of the city, and in LA too. But my first big job was One Small Hitch, which is a romantic comedy on Netflix. It was got an award for the best unseen romantic comedy.
Uh-huh.
But it's really cute, very well done here, done all by Chicago producers, and it was my first, high six-figure budget film, and
Hmm.
it was great. It was a great experience. You're talking about 90, almost 100 actors to look after, 40
Right.
locations, that sort of thing. The big deal, and so I think I got a few wrinkles from that experience, but I definitely got bit by the bug for sure.
Okay, okay. So I get that. I see that. It was it's one of those things. Oh, I am here, so don't think that I'm not here. I
I,
just had them I had them looking at you. I had them looking at you. I'm here. Um it was just one of those things where I think that when you decide that you want to be in film or in the entertainment business, period, you have to find your lane and you have to find your niche. So I think a lot of people they come into it thinking they want to do one thing, but um, they don't look at all the different aspects of it. A lot of people come into it looking just that, oh, I want to be on TV, I want to act. But there's so many different nuances in acting or in film that you can do. So now, which brings me to another thing that you did with documentaries. So what was the first documentary you worked on, and what is it like to put together a documentary?
well, the first documentary I ever did was a really small indie, like me with a camera thing, called "Quit Your Day Job." And so I thought, so throughout my process, my personal story, I was a bartender for 20 years. Throughout putting in my time on free projects, I took every project that I could. So the concept of quitting your day job into your dream was something that was really appealing to me. And I interviewed a lawyer that wanted to be a baker, and a doctor that wanted to be a non-traditional medicine healer. So like
Hmm.
these little stories of these real people really touched my heart. So
Right.
and I love working with actors. I love actors so much, but I also find there's such a great beauty into people's stories. Like no matter who you are, you have a story, and I truly believe that whoever you are, your story can affect someone else. And
And- yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
everybody has something to say, and um, so that was my first doc. So
So that, and I think that's so true. A lot of people will sometimes discount their story or think their story doesn't matter. And in reality, it really does matter. And that's why I think people need to really take themselves serious on what it is that they want to do. Because at the end of the day, if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. And if you want to, there nothing. What is it? Nothing beats a failure but a try,
That's
right?
true.
And a lot of people are so afraid to just step out and try when they really should just get at it. And thinking about that, I know working with you, I've worked with you before. I remember it was for a commercial, and it was a union commercial. I came in and read for the commercial, and it was one of those things where everything was professionally done. You guys had the waiting area, you had the coffee set up, you had it was like a well-oiled machine. Everybody played their role. And my question to you, being a woman in film, how important is it for you to always be on your P's and Q's and have all your ducks in a row because you know people are looking at you?
I mean, yeah, it is. If people are looking at you, and like I won't get on a soapbox. We all have their.
Oh no, dude, get on it. That's what this is about. It's about giving a voice to the people and you telling us your story or your thoughts, however they come out.
Well, I feel very blessed with enlightenment. I'll say that. There have been situations throughout my career that I've been in a situation where, truly because of my gender, I was put my opinions were put on the back burner, and that's sort of what. As growing up and going through these experiences and doing things, that sort of is why I wanted to be in a producer position, so that I could be the driving force, so that I could build these sets and these environments the way that I wanted to. And it's not only about everybody watching you, but to have all of your ducks in a row. It also is it's also projecting love to your fellow actors, to your grips, to your camera people, to your whole set, because it's more than just like a job. You're coming and you're creating this environment so that everybody can thrive within that environment. And so but I do think that that's something that comes natural to women. So I guess it comes natural to me. Like, I want everybody to thrive no matter what their position is. If they're doing crafty or whatever it is, every single aspect of that job needs to be set up and have your ducks in a row to welcome everybody.
Good. When it comes to being a woman as in film, as in producing and production, do you feel that there's equality? Do you feel that you guys still haven't gotten where you should be because it's always been so male dominant? Where do you feel it is right now in reference to when it first started?
I mean, things are improving for sure. Things are improving, and I've worked with some amazing male producers, directors that have enlightened consciousness about that, about making sure it's being, you're hiring the right people for the right job. But it's not, you still are looking at like film executives that are like 2% women. I don't know what all of the statistics have changed a little bit, but like you're still looking at people, camera people. There's not a lot of women in that position. Audio position, like I've searched this entire city for a union audio gal, and they're not out there.
Right.
But I just think I think the overall thing though is to have, when you have a set that is diverse in experience and age, and everybody comes at you to contribute from different experiences. That's what makes art. That's what makes something great. So it's not only about, there's a lot of challenges that women have to go through, and I am very, very blessed and lucky that I have kind of carved out a little place for myself where, like, I don't have to take the projects where I know I will be subject to that.
Right. Okay. So you have options, but having options, that comes from putting in work, right?
100%.
That comes from, which brings me to my next point about putting in work. So, and that's what I've seen you move over the years, and I've been amazed at the growth. And when I say amazed, I don't mean surprised. I mean amazed, because it's amazing to see your growth and how you've gone up the ladder in your position as a producer and a showrunner and a filmmaker. and I think it's something to be commended. And when you talk about the process, there's a process to it. What do you think a lot of people miss when it comes to the process of being successful as a producer?
Well, I think it's different for everybody. But for myself, like I always knew, like I bring my core values to the table because, and that's what helps me grow. I'm a big believer in when you are helping somebody else rise, you will rise yourself. And so I think for me, my process is to be is with people. Like I collect people in a sense and connect people. And that's always served me well. But I think, and not to say that this is easy by any means, because I fight for my own self every day in my journey. But it's really about, I think your ultimate growth is really kind of deducting the things that you don't want. It's
Right.
okay to not know exactly perfectly what you want or have that perfect vision or, but deducting what you know you don't want and extracting that from your life right away is a really good way to excel. But
Okay.
again, my point is like when you help others rise, you will rise. I'm a
Yeah.
big believer in that.
That's and you know I believe in that big time,
I,
and it's I believe in give and it shall be given unto you, and I believe in the law of the laws. You know, if you give out good energy, you get good energy, and it's one of those things that you have to. And even though when you believe in it, you have to be reminded of it sometimes as you practice it, because as people we get complacent and we forget the things that we did to get us in the positions that we're at sometimes, and we have to sometimes refocus and go back. And speaking about going back, I don't want to go over something. I remember working on a movie with you years ago. I used to love her.
hmm Yeah,
Do
yeah,
you remember I used to love her?
yeah. Of course I
So,
do.
this shows how long I've known you now. Um, what was it like working? First of all, tell everybody what your role was, and I used to love her, and then tell us what was it like working on that with Mark Harris.
Well, I'm a big fan of Mark Harris. I'll say that. Not only professionally, but he's an enlightened soul, so I appreciate that about him. But it was great. I mean, you know, Mark has like a presence about him that is very, I think, attractive to all people, and to be a director and have that presence is really great. And you, of course, have that. I think that's kind of why you guys gel because you have that presence too. And so I thought it was really great. We filmed at that park, beautiful Garfield Park.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think it was good. I think that experience for me too hit it home that like you guys created that environment.
Hmm.
That's a very welcoming environment. And I remember like the first phone call, I'm like, "Hi, Mr. Harris." And I don't remember exactly how we connected originally, but he allowed me to do a part, walk on part,
Right.
small part, and
And it's so funny. It's so funny. That's how Mark is. Mark. I would have to say Mark is, in my best friends. There's probably three, and he's one of them. And we've gotten along so well over the years, and it's so funny working with him. And even with you and I, when we reconnected, it was because Mark had referred me to you for
yeah,
something, and then it was right back at it. But that's when you have a great relationship with people, you know you might not work together for years, and then down the line something comes up, right? So now you've gone from being an extra to wanting to get into production to getting into production, and doing projects, and then you had the nerve to start directing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so what was that like? What was that like finally being able to direct after watching people give direction and after taking direction? Now you're giving direction. What was that like?
Um, it's amazing, but there's a lot of, you go through a period of self-doubt, right? Like when you get in there and you're surrounded by, and all of these people have gathered. You have, the stage is set. You've got your set designers and your gaffers and your genie department and the camera people, and everybody is looking at you for direction. And so I went through about a moment of self-doubt for about 5 minutes.
Mhm.
First set, and then I was like, I got this. I put
Right.
in my time. I got this. And it's all, and sometimes, you know, I think you get tripped up on like the right call. Sometimes it's not about making the right call. It's about making a call and making something beautiful.
Right.
But it's, as you know, uh, it's all about the collaboration. Everything is a beautiful sync of everybody that's doing their job, and everybody has their little part in the cog. So it's also relying on people that you trust. You know, like you were talking about relationships, and you know, I think you or Mark could call me, and whatever you would need, I would try to help you.
Yeah.
But I'm blessed with people like you guys in my life, especially on set, where I can say, you know, I can call somebody and be like, I don't know about this lens, or what do you think about this part of the script, or whatever. Um, but it's relying on each other a little bit.
Mhm.
You don't always have to have the answers.
Right. Right.
A great director brings that to the table.
Yeah.
And I'll say one thing, and not to be on a soapbox, but I've worked with a ton of creative directors also in the agency world. And I think the best art comes from people who are not chained up by their ego. So to be a director, I knew like you kind of check your ego at the door, and you're there to serve the story.
Yes.
Serve the people that are there, and just giving them a platform to thrive. And that's where the art comes in.
Right. Yeah. You have to be willing to allow people to do their job, because I believe if you hire someone for a job, you hire them for a reason, and you have to allow them to bring that creativity to the project. So you don't want to stifle it. You want to control what's going on and make sure it's moving in the right direction. But you also want to be able to let people use their creativity in order to bring it to pass. And I think it's like I know you're always so busy. I mentioned to you about a project I want you to help me with, which is now finished, and now I can present it to you. But it's like one of those things where you look at what people have done or what they're doing, and then you connect the dots in order to make something great. You need a team. And I think when people understand that and they know that, that's when you have the best projects, and that's when you have the best results. Is because people are willing to be a part of that team. So I think you're dead on with that. And speaking of that, so now, and I'm just going through on you. That's when you talk about directing. Now, what is it like for you being a writer? And how do you, and where do you get your inspiration from to write?
Well, I mean, going back to regular people, you know, versus actors. You know, in the political stuff that I do, I've been around the country and I've talked to a lot of regular people, and that's where the inspiration comes. You know, and I think, you know, I am not a perfectly talented person. I never was excelled in academics, you know, greatly. But the one thing that I do know is people. And so, you know, as we go through life, you know, we're inspired by these people that we meet, or these moments that we can see. You know, it could just be going to the store to get milk or whatever, and
Right.
you may stop to help someone, or you might stop to meet someone, or maybe somebody stops to help you. And those are the moments. Like, they're all rooted in humanity. I was a bartender for many years.
I know it's interesting. You get a lot of stories there.
Oh yeah.
I
So
did. Yeah.
that's part of my core story is going through that process. And so I feel like whenever I'm writing, it always goes back to that. And let me just be clear that I am not a great writer. I'm not a wordsmith. But I can put some stuff down on paper. But I think the more authentic that you can be, you know,
Mhm.
whether you have the perfect skill set of a writer, it's all going to come through if you're
Right.
authentic.
Right.
Keeping it.
I totally agree with you on that. And it's one of those things where I think a lot of great writing comes from experiences. It comes from experiences, the things you've gone through, the things you've learned, the things you've seen, the things you've been a part of. So I think there's a lot of different nuances when it comes to writing something good, something entertaining and worthy. And now we'll talk about So we talked about directing, we talked about writing, and now you also a showrunner. So what is it like for you to have to put together a show and run a show?
Well, every show that I've worked on has been like hell on heels. So it's been
That could be a show, Hell on Heels.
That would be a great show. But it's been, you're building it as you go. So, I've only done travel rooted shows rooted in concept of travel.
Okay.
So you're taking a crew from one end of the country to the other, and you're building it as you go.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a little bit like being, you're sort of like the mother, of everybody, of the crew, because you're a tight knit crew, but you're all living this human experience of like going from one end of the country to the other, and just building that as you go. And we would have to, it depends on the concept, obviously, but I would have to kind of recruit people to be on camera, regular people,
Mm-hmm.
In each of these little niche cities. And so that was, very challenging. So basically the car is your office, and as you're driving, you're making calls and doing all this stuff. So, I'm sure it's different on like a studio show. You're all in one place, but I guess my one of my skill sets is chaos, producing chaos.
And that's funny that you said that. I was going to ask you a question about you hold the title of Chicago's best bartender.
Yes, but that's from 2005.
It doesn't matter. It happened, right? Because once you're a champion, you're a champion. Mm-hmm. I don't care what year you're a champion, you're deemed a champion. What were some of the things that happened that made them name you Chicago's best or Chicago's best bartender? What how did that come about?
Well, there's a Metromix, our Metromix Chicago Tribune brand does this every year. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they put a call out to people, like just to nominate someone. And I didn't even know I was nominated, but like all these people nominated me and started writing in saying that, I was making drinks on my head and I had all these little tricks that I did. And, my thing is I'll make you anything. You tell me what color you want it to be. You tell me what it tastes like, and I'll figure it out on the fly. So, I was just always nice to everybody, whether they were tipping me or not, or whether they couldn't even speak English. It doesn't matter. If you're smiling and you're nice to everybody. So I think I was really approachable. So you get nominated, and then they break it down to the top 10, and then it gets nominated, and then it gets broken down to the top 5. And then at the top 5, they put you all in a bar together, and you basically get graded on certain things, on personality and speed, and you're just in a room and then they vote. But my personal experience was amazing. I bonded with the other bartenders. There was a guy who sang while he bartended, like that was their thing at one of the bars. I can't remember what it's called. And he sang and like twirled me around, told me drinks on my head. And I come from the old school flair bartenders, so I was flipping bottles and
right,
that kind of thing. And I won.
You were on some Tom Cruise and cocktail type of stuff.
Yeah, that shows how old I am.
Look, me too, because I remember it. So that's cool. So another thing I want to ask you about is you are a proud board member of the Women in Chicago film group, right?
Yes.
What is that? And for any woman that's watching or that sees this, because I know a lot of women in film, how do they become a part of that, and what is it exactly?
Well, at its core, it's a networking organization. We highlight and we try to excel a woman's capabilities. So, like if someone's a writer and needs help, figuring out their script, we try to connect them with somebody that can help. Mm-hmm. We try to provide information. It's we don't make anything, but we're connectors and we are highlighters. So every week we try to highlight someone new on our website just to make some connections and create some awareness.
Right.
we have a lot of members that are men. We're now, because of the COVID-19, we're sort of recalibrating some things and offering memberships for free of charge. We're kind of working these things out just to help people support people during this time. Because the opportunities and the work are going to be, will be challenged even after we're done with this. So we're trying to provide a platform that can help excel.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that, because now as we look at what's going on with the pandemic, everything is so different now. I think I was joking. I told you, I said, "Hey, I always know I'm available." It's like, so what people have to do is they have to start using their other skills and creativity, and it's a lot of things. And I tell, it's so funny. I've worked in education for 25 years, whether I was teaching at the grammar school, high school, or college level, or coaching, or being a dean or whatever. And so I'm so thankful that I got my education, because it allows me, that along with my experiences, it allows me to step into different realms. And I think that one thing that we have to do now during this time is we have to learn how to be creative, and not only be creative, but learn how to use our other talents. It's just like, if you told me I would have been producing my own show like this, I would have said, I don't know how to do that. But I was forced to learn how to do this. Now I can put the little commercials in and all of that. But it's a process. And not only is it a process, it comes from learning and asking questions. So how important do you think it is for people to just not be scared to step out and learn more?
I think that, there's a saying that I've heard people say, and it's like, a jack of all trades is a master of none. Mm-hmm. But I completely disagree with that. I think that I'm not saying you shouldn't master one skill, but to diversify and learn new things. I think it's so important. And I think that it can be a challenge of how to do that, mm-hmm. how to kind of do that and implement it. But it's all, again, it's sort of about asking. You're right, asking the right questions and asking for help. Mm-hmm. Even if, like, I would say, put yourself out there is the biggest thing. Like, hey, I noticed you did this picture, and you did this post, and you have this element in it. How did you do that?
Right. Yeah.
I had a couple of people reach out to me via Women in Film saying, like, I've never done voiceover before, but I have a good mic at home and I need to make some money. So, so I help them, do a demo. But it's all about asking. Just asking for help and putting yourself out there. And I know I say that, and it's hard. It is hard because you're stepping out of the box.
Yes. And so the cool thing about the things that you do. So now I'm gonna go the other way a little bit to some of the other things that you do when it comes to the politics. Mm-hmm. You do a lot of directing and producing and helping people that's running for office, whether on a local scale or national scale, and you're involved in this process. What is that like, working in politics for you?
As much as I love it, it's still, politics, as people know, it's a dirty business, right? Like, even no matter how true you are to yourself or what your core values are, it's a dirty business. I've gone through, I started out a very part-time kind of lending my producing skills. And then it kind of, as especially with the, with Donald Trump coming into office, things got the political temperature of our country has changed. It's changed every year since I started doing this. I first got into politics in 2012 as a very minor role, learn a little something and to be educated. But throughout this process, I have, it's been a really strange journey. Changes every day. It changes every day. But like I said, I've met these regular people and seeing these people, like first-time women candidates, first-time candidates of color, the first time, a person of color runs in their district or and wins and changes the world. Like those moments I love. Like, that's why I'm there a little bit, to contribute to kind of changing, to igniting a little bit of change. But it is hard. You don't love every moment of every day.
Right. So you are a strong advocate for women, and I think the thing that I appreciate about it is that with you, it doesn't it you don't look at race. You look at people, and a lot of times, a lot of people get hung up on that, and especially in politics, people get hung up on demographics. They get hung up on race and things like that. But sometimes it just has to come down to the best person for the job. And if that person happens to be African American, let's do it. If the person happens to be Caucasian or white American, whatever, let's do it. It doesn't matter. It's all about the end goal and end result and making things better for people. Have you gotten working in the political field or realm? Has there been a lot of times where you've gotten frustrated seeing what's going on and just wanting to help make things different?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of this job has really accented on the fact of like the lack of control that we do have, right? So you have to try to ignite change with understanding those limitations, right? So, but here's the thing: it's like everything in politics is race, everything is demographic, and I guess the thing that I can say is, yeah, it is the best person for the job.
Yeah.
But you also, you have to bring experience. So if you're telling, so I take telling people's stories very seriously and honor that story. So, and we are all in this country and around the world, we're living our own experience, right? Our own American, we're all in America, right? We're all in Chicago, right? But we are all living this different experience.
Right.
So I do not take that for granted. So I think, when you're working on something, and if it's, you need to really honor that person's perspective.
Yes.
And sometimes that person, you have to say to yourself, I'm not that person to tell that story properly. So let me get some help because I want to honor this person the best way that I can.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's always going to be about the best person for the job with the skill set. But I do not undervalue perspective at all. And I'll say this: there's a huge lack, I think, of representation of Black men in politics. There's a good many. I think there's some really great candidates out there, but behind the scenes, that's we in Black women, I think, are gaining momentum in that way. There's more and more producers and account managers and campaign managers, but I feel like just the richer we are, the more experienced people, the more perspective that we can bring to the table to honor that person. Or honor that district or the people that you're telling to go and vote. I think voting is super personal, and we're talking about the people that we elect are the people that affect everything in our lives.
Yes, yes.
We're finding that out now, right, with this health epidemic.
Yes.
I think I would say, it's not to vote for the right person. It's not only about the people that look like you or talk like you or who are from where you're from or whatever that may be, but it's about the person that's gonna be in your best interest.
Yes.
And I think that's really hard for people to distinguish.
Right.
So the position that I'm in, I try to make that clear and try to do the best job that I am, because it's not only about my client and the person that's paying me, it's also about the people that live in their district or live in their state or wherever. So it's something I take very seriously.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny. For years, people tried to get me to get into politics, and I didn't want to do it. I know I could do it because I have a heart for the people, and I know people would like me because of my personality and the things I do. But what I don't have the stomach for is, and the patience for, is to deal with how crooked it can get, and how people will be downright dirty and nasty, especially if they feel that you're going to beat them or you have a leg up on them. They will make up stuff, say stuff. And it's one of those things where I was like, nah, I need to do it a different way. That's why I do it. That's why I motivate people and things. But I never thought about the fact of working behind the scenes in politics, because like you said, I don't see a lot of Black men doing that. So I think that is something for people to consider as well, working behind the scenes. And someone asked a question. They said, when you said persons of color, were you just referring to African American people?
Oh no, I mean I've been blessed with it's not only African American people. There have been Hispanic people, women, first time candidates, and I don't want to say who my clients were because I want to respect their
Oh
privacy.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's not just about African American
Yeah. It
clients.
was just a question. It was just a question. So anytime somebody asks questions, and somebody just heard us talking when I said I thought about going in politics. They said, "No, bro." They said, "Don't do it. It's too ruthless and dirty." And yeah, and I think that it's one of those things where it's kind of a slippery slope because you do have good people. You do have good people and people that just want to do good. And but I think it's correct me if I'm wrong. I think politics for some people is about power. And I think our president that's in there right now, for him, I think it was all about power and status and having or being in control of something bigger than himself.
100%.
So
And ego.
yeah.
I'll add all the things that you're saying are true, but plus ego.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything, every subject matter that it'll, no matter what he's talking about, always kind of loops back to him, right? Like what he's done, or how fabulous he is, or whatever. So I think when someone is it's the same thing with going back to directors. It's like when you're leading and you're serving other people and you're driven by ego. We all have egos, but when you're driven by that and that's your number one, then we're in trouble.
So let me ask you this. During this, and this is you, and the one thing I love about my show, like I said, is giving a voice to people. So if there's anything people don't want to ask or answer, it's fine with me. But I'm just asking because it's a conversation that I know people are always having, and I always want to have the conversation in a neutral corner.
Sure.
When you look at everything that's going on with COVID and how the government is handling it, what are your thoughts? And in the last part of that is, and I'll let you say this part for last. The latest thing that the president talked about when he talked about the disinfectant, injecting it into people and things like that. I mean, I know I'm not the only one that thinks this way, but stuff like that is just asinine. It's just dumb.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the injecting. I think I've gotten secondary information because whenever that would come into my world, I would sort of put it over here.
Yeah, because it's so.
It's I don't know. I didn't even actually know if that was real or not. I've been kind of taking that out of my life, but which is ridiculous. I mean,
super ridiculous.
It's really hard to say, and I think I'm a little torn. I think if what you're asking is like, is it how the administration is handling it?
Yes.
I'm really torn because I feel like it's something that like no one expected, and I think that the thing that I will say is that I am a seeker of information, and so I do not ever take firsthand what somebody is telling me. Like all the things that we toss around this definition of mainstream media, so I don't want to make it a derogatory term at all because obviously journalists and producers are so important to me, but I never take what people are feeding us, right? I don't take what the administration, whether it's this one or any administration, for real. I fact check everything, and so I think it's great to stay home, but I also there's a lot of people that are saying that there's other motivations behind staying home.
Right.
A lot of information that we don't have yet. And so but again, it has to do with ego. If you listen to the current administration talk and the president talk, it's always about like what he's doing.
You know what we call it, right? They're having a pissing contest.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Sometimes you just got to call it what it is. And I think people, sometimes people get hung up on words, or if you say a certain word or whatever, but in the grand scheme of things and in reality, we see what it is and what's going on. And we have to figure out a way that we can that we can help, right? And I think and like you said, I'm a firm believer in every time you hear something, I like to fact check. I like to look at it several times, and I like to see what's really going on before I just believe what someone tells me. And I think that's one of the problems. We're not doing research and we're not checking things out. We're just going off face value. And sometimes you have to go a little deeper than face value. So let me ask you this: when it comes to women in film, right?
Mm-hmm.
What advice can you give? What advice can you? And it's two form: women in film or people that just want to be in film in general. Because I know you guys said you're opening it up, but the focus was women in film and women doing great things. What advice would you give women that are looking to be in the business in some capacity?
I think that's really hard to know where you want to start, right? There's so many aspects of it. So I think researching that out and really searching your soul. And I think determining where you are and meeting yourself where you are. So for me, in the beginning, I mean, it was a big financial struggle. Like I was in the very beginning, I was going to school, I was bartending, I was spending donating my time for free. So I think that it's something about kind of analyzing that and seeing what you can handle. Because when you're first starting out, every gig is not going to feed you, as you know. So I think it's like evaluating where you are and figuring out how to get there. How much time can you spend for education? How much time can you spend for donating your time for free? But
Yeah,
but again, like I think it's about reaching out and taking a chance. And like I've had people reach out to me, and I'm really, really busy. But if I can't help you, I'm going to find somebody who can. And
exactly.
I know not everybody is like me, and some people are just going to not get back to you and that sort of thing. But it's about just keep trying.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And I think the one thing behind that is a lot of times people depend on other people to determine if they're going to do it or not. And I think that's where you miss it. It's like when I started doing my show, people told me not to do it because I didn't have a backdrop. I didn't have this. I didn't have that. And I said, all I need is a couch for my guests to sit on, a table or desk for me to sit at to ask the questions, because in my mind, it's going to be about the interview and the information, not about what you see. Right. And so I went forward. And as I went forward, things started to fall in place. And even now, I'm still trying to get sponsorship and things like that. But guess what? I'm not going to stop. I'm going to find a way to get it done. Why? Because it means that much to me. So now when I get to the point where I want to be, I can talk about the test during my testimony. Because, without a test, there's no testimony. And you have to have that story. And as it, whether you want to say a story of struggle, a story of setback, and that road leading up to your success. So I think people have to get that and know, and also realize it can't mean more to me than it does to you.
100%, 100%. And by all means, when I was saying, you need to determine where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
in your finances, because we all have to eat. I did not mean, not doing anything, because
Oh no, yeah,
exactly right. Like
exactly.
use what you got. If you don't have, if you're lacking in one thing, you have something else to offer. And as you said, it all goes down back to your story.
Right.
No matter what, no one can ever, ever, ever take your story or your perspective away.
That's it.
Take that and you run with it.
Yeah. So somebody asked this question. So if anybody watching, if you have a question, please put your question up, because I see the questions and I'm looking at them, and I'll make sure I ask Stephanie for you, and so she can answer it. But I have a guy. He says, "What do you think about men making women-driven film projects, and what message can you provide to them?"
I mean, I think that's a hard one because it depends on the man.
Mm-hmm.
But I also I do not believe in censorship in that way. So if you're a man and you want to tell a beautiful story about a woman, I think that's amazing. I think the more successful that you will be is if you have some perspective of women. You're consulting the women in your life.
Right.
But I would never ever put a limitation on that. But I do think you also want to think about your audience, right? Like if you're telling a story about women and you want it to appeal to women, you're going to want a little bit of women consulting.
Exactly. It's only it only makes sense. It only makes sense. If you want to do a movie about, I'm about to be funny, don't laugh. If you want to do a movie about pimps, you can't do it without talking to Don Juan or Snoop Dogg or somebody that you found in the hood that used to be a pimp. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where you have to do your research, and it's like being an actor. You know this, and as a director and an actor and a producer, if I'm playing the role of a doctor or a lawyer, I'm going to go and I'm going to research. I did a movie with Mark in LA, No Regrets. I played an Uber driver. I actually went and drove Uber for, I think I must have drove Uber only for a week though. I couldn't even do it. And I'm driving Uber and the people I'm driving are like, wait a minute, didn't I see you on WCIU? I'm like, no, that wasn't me. No, it was you. Could you imagine driving Uber and the person that you're driving is Googling you?
I mean, yeah, that's
that. So then I have to go into, well, I'm doing character development. It's like, why are you in my business? Leave me alone.
Yeah, but that's a new scene for a new movie.
Right.
I mean, it's great.
But it's so funny that when you decide to do something, I think you have to immerse yourself in it, and you have to sometimes become that, and you have to surround yourself with like-minded people and people that can feed and pour into that creativity or that space in order for you to be successful. Let me ask this: when you have you ever done a political campaign or commercial? And twofold. One, you really believed in that. And two, it was one that you didn't believe in, but it was a job and you just had to do it.
Absolutely. Both ways. Like I said, the first time candidates where, it's there's something really special about that stage and I love it. And I'm so sorry I made a rookie mistake. I have to plug my computer in. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So everybody, you're watching the Sip and Savor hour of the Simeon Henderson Show, where we're giving a voice to the people. And we are on with Stephanie Rabiloa. And her name is always hard to pronounce for me. But she is a woman in film, and she has gone from being an extra to working on sets, becoming a director, a writer, and producer, and running shows. And it's one of those things where if it's something that you inspired to do or that you really want to try and get after, you need to learn how to do that. And how do you do that? You do it by stepping out and going for it, no matter how it looks, feels, or sounds. You have to understand, and you have to understand who you are, and you have to have faith in your abilities to do so. And Stephanie, did you plug it in?
I'm so sorry, everybody.
That's okay.
So sorry. Rookie mistake.
That's okay.
It is okay to admit.
I heard it. I just heard it go.
Made a mistake.
It's all good.
So to answer your question, of course, absolutely. There have been times where I've cried on set because people are telling their story and it's so amazing. And then there's other times where, you are employed to do a job and you do it to the best of your abilities.
Right.
There's always going to be that, like, no matter what you're doing.
So someone asked a question. Somebody asked a question, and they said, what motivated you to do film? What motivated Stephanie to do film?
I think that since I was a little kid, I was telling stories in my garage and, putting on productions and shows. And, when I was a little kid, I would put this production on in my garage, and then at the end I would like jump up and pull the garage door down, just doing stupid kid stuff. But then I really took it seriously with my education.
Right.
So I studied dance, and I studied in music. I studied a little bit and wasn't very good at it, and then I finally had to get serious and say, like, what am I really good at?
Right.
And that was kind of led me to the path of working in film and getting educated.
Okay. There you go. So that was from Quincy. I hope she answered your question, Quincy. And but yeah, man, I've enjoyed this hour with you and just sitting down and talking to you. It's so funny how when you first start the conversation, and you can honestly think to yourself, are we going to be able to talk for an hour? And then before you know it, you're at 55 minutes, and it's like, oh wow, we've been talking for a whole hour. But it's one of those things where I believe that we have to have these conversations in order to change the narrative in whatever it is that we're endeavoring to do, whether it's in film, entertainment, politics, work, force, writing a book, whatever it is, that you have to gain knowledge and have real conversations with real people who's been there and done that. And when you look at people, you don't know their story unless you take the time to talk to them. And sitting here now, I've learned stuff about you today that I didn't even know. But it's one of those things where we have to not be discouraged by what's going on in the world or what we see, but we have to be encouraged by what's in our heart and what we want to do. So what would you like to leave the people with?
I mean, just to add on to the thing that you just said, I think we're learning through the political temperature and through this time where it's really challenging for people. But I think more puts us, we have more similarities as a people than we do that sets us apart. I'm kind of screwing up that quote. I think someone else said it. I think Dr. King might have said it, but there's much more that we have in common than we think.
Right.
And I think to get through difficult times like this, you really, really do have to lean on one another. And so, so thank you. And I think thank you for doing this show, because I am sure, especially during this time, that people are really, really depending on kind of what you're putting out there and inspiring them.
I won't stop. So let me ask you this question. What's next for Stephanie? What is next for you? Because I know you're always working. I know you always have something brewing. What's next for you that we can look forward to?
Well, I mean, I think for one, I'm building an army. I want to, I worked all over this country, but I would say that I am so proud of this city. Mm-hmm. And the talent that is in this city. And so, I'm trying to build an army so that we can all thrive in putting that together. And so I think what's coming next for me is to maybe work with people that I haven't worked before.
Right.
And try to, kind of highlight other people's voices that maybe didn't have a voice before, kind of like what you're doing with your show.
Right. Exactly.
Bringing those voices to the table.
Right. And you're very, one thing I like is that you're very good at bringing the right people together for a cause and getting things done. And that's why you're so successful, is because you know how to lead, you know how to be a leader, you know how to direct, and you know how to produce. And so when you know how to lead and direct, you can produce something well. And I think that's what we need in order for success. So we need people like you. We need to learn to glean from you and watch what you're doing. And not only that, sometimes we got to hook on to those arms, man, and we got to ride that wave and find out what's going on and get some insight on how we can be more successful. Because, I always say, people always try, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's just a wheel. Push it and it's going to roll. Yeah. So I think
who is pushing it, right?
That's it. You're going to stand next to a wheel and you're going to look at it and scratch your head and figure out how to get it from this door to that door, when all you have to do is just,
It's so true.
It's not rocket scientist.
It's so true. And I think sometimes we get caught up in that, right? Like
Yes.
we get caught up in reinventing the wheel, but you're right.
All right, everybody. You've been watching the Sip and Savor Hour, the Simeon Henderson Show, where we're giving a voice to the people. Stephanie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to stop by and chat with us. We look forward to seeing what's going to be going on with you in the future. And I look forward to working with you. And it's one of those things where it's really good to have good relationships and people that you can count on and that you can come to for advice, and people that's going to give you good insight and truthful insight and not just tell you what they think you want to hear.
Very
so I love your background. You know, I love Rocky. I see Rocky in the background. That's him and Adrian walking, right? That's Rocky 1.
Yeah. Well, you know why I have that up there is because you know, he got told no.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
A lot. And so like that is the aspect of why I have that up there, to remind. It's a good reminder every day to know that like you've one door shuts, then you walk to the next door and knock on it.
There it is. And I want to thank you for just being who you are. And a lot of people don't know what we go through personally, but like I know you, and I know you've gone through some tragedy. You know, we've lost people and things like that. But to still be strong and move forward and work hard and still honor the people that we've lost and understand that we still have a purpose because we're still here. A lot of people don't realize, they just see you doing all the work and they don't understand that you're a human and that you go through things as well. And I just want to tell you, I commend you for still staying focused, being diligent, and still keeping people close to your heart and wanting to see people have great things and do great, even as you have to deal with things that you've gone through. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much for saying that.
No problem. So everybody, Stephanie, we will talk to you later. Thank you so much, and continue to share and watch the Simeon Henderson Show, and see you later.
See you later, everybody. Take care.
All right. So everybody, you've been watching the Simeon Henderson Show, where we're giving a voice to the people. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sip and Savor Hour. Make sure you continue to support, make sure you share, and make sure you donate to the show and everything that you can do to make it happen so people can get good information. And we also, you can run an ad on the show. All you have to do is inbox us and or send an email to the Simeon Henderson Show at gmail.com, and you can help this thing continue to grow. So thank you so much.